folks, it's Richard Moore. I'd like to welcome everybody. And today's show is hopefully will be, again, some information which I'm convinced it's information that people do not have. The rest of the story, you might say. And as I bring these stories about individuals, not only just in North Mississippi, but across this nation. And time and again, we read the headlines, we get the narrative that was given, and there's an all too common thread that runs through these stories. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason that local news gives a narrative, and they're controlled by the national media outlets. Even though you have a local homespun cast and ownership, their affiliation, whatever network they're affiliated with, these are the people that control what they do talk about and what they don't talk about. And so it shouldn't surprise anyone that your local news stations, like in North Mississippi, you have WCBI and WTVA. It doesn't matter if you go into the Memphis market or the Jackson market or North Alabama market. It's the same deal. It's the same deal. So everything is cut out like perfect cookie cutter pieces. It's like paper dolls. So you get the news, just open up the paper dolls, and there you have it. And so through my advocacy for victims of community-oriented policing, some refer to as gang stalking. Many people that see that gang stalking on our platforms and so forth are misled, or they draw the wrong conclusion. Hence the reason and purpose for the name gang stalking in the first place. This title was created by those that are perpetrating the crimes. And this is our elected officials, law enforcement community, in order for them to operate in a clandestine manner. Community-oriented policing, they have their whitewash, their stuff that they've got set up in their picture window. But once you go into the beast, it is not what it appears. They do not talk about what they're really doing. The insiders with community-oriented policing refer to this as either the program, and some have even said the network, and others with their team are referred to as the crew. And there's a short list of the type of individuals that are susceptible to drinking this Kool-Aid of deceit and participating with this program. They draw from a pool of deplorables, dope addicts, liberals, a percentage out of the gay and lesbian community, the African American community, Asian and Hispanic community, all with a different agenda, and some feeling that this participation allows them to level the playing field of what is perceived as being slighted in society. So in other words, this organization, this program, funded through the Department of Justice, is able to construct masses, a following of people that are susceptible and fall into play with their misinformation. The same way Stalin, Mussolini, Hitler, Gaddafi, Pol Pot, and the list goes on, rose to power and was able to do the damage that they did. We should learn from history. President Trump referred to this as the deep state. I'm absolutely amazed at individuals that hear that and either think it's some kind of Area 51 conspiracy, or it's something to do with, and then they can't tell you. Somebody in Washington. Alrighty then. No, I'll tell you, it has something to do with just set down the Kool-Aid and go to your front door and look out. And my friend, within 3 feet, and this is metaphorically, there's always a culprit rat within reaching distance. You can believe that. You see, the people that don't know you are usually the ones that admire you. Your haters are usually those that are closest by you, and you don't even know it. Your haters are real close. And this is very dangerous. We talk about missing person, Jessica Stacks, Union County, Mississippi. It's been a year. And will be more on that at the latter part of this week. We'll have a different place for the witnesses and for those that knew Jessica the most, where they can submit any input that they have. I assure you, you won't be dismissed or marginalized. This program, under the auspice of those in a position of power, wearing a badge that took an oath to protect the Constitution from tyranny, from terrorists, foreign or domestic, have absolutely abandoned that Constitution. That oath is simply words. What they're saying and what they're doing is two different things. Today I'm going to talk about someone that I haven't met. But for some reason, today I learned that I've been familiar with this story. It's not an old story. But I'm just now getting a little more information on it. And as I report, I need everybody to know, as I make these reports, you must understand that it is not a politically correct position, well, I don't know, for an American citizen to stand up for their constitutional rights and their civil liberties. When I make posts, when I write, and I write blogs, U.S. anti-gang stalking, on WordPress, on Reddit, Quora, Tumblr, we can go on and on. United States Anti-Gang Stalking Association on YouTube. Inevitably, masses of clowns and trolls that have no substance to anything they ever say or do. These operatives working with community-oriented policing are pathological, malignant liars. So they cannot ever say anything of substance. They lie. It's community-oriented policing. Statistics show that American policing as a whole is built on a foundation of lies. Don't take my word for it. Research it. The statistics are right there. The statistics are right there. But it's not popular to bring that to the light, to talk about it. We would rather talk about someone in law enforcement stopping and helping a little old lady across the street. You know, that for years, that was one of the mantras of Boy Scouts of America. Of course, I don't know how many boys had to get raped and molested by scoutmasters before they stopped that. It's doing the good deeds and all this stuff, but wasn't talking about protecting children. It's the very people that project crimes against humanity and children on to their victims. They want to take their deplorableness and project it on others. And this, what I'm going to talk about is a case in point. Well, back to the trolls. You know, they'll say something like, Look at his tattoo. There's one on the left eye, one's on the right eye, and it changes. And all this. He's got this Illuminati thing. They can't talk about anything. Don't mention anything about a person and their whole family just got massacred. They will talk about my tattoos, or I misspelled a word or something. And so they're narrow-minded, shallow, criminal morons. And so with that, it's a daily struggle. Not so much so, it's easy to recognize. Easy to recognize. I have people, just hordes of people, that want their story told and all that. And I'm only one person. I have other people that research and write stories and do things. I'm supported by the viewers. I usually always have the links where you can support. And that is greatly ignored. People just assume. And that usually separates a lot. When I get these fake targeted individuals and they want to get all this floor time and tie up my time texting back and forth, and I'm not going to do that. I'll send them a link on how they can support this organization and contribute to what we're doing. Lawsuits, all these things are going on. I'm not getting paid for this. That usually shuts them up. Okay, so it's put your money where your mouth is. I don't need anybody to write me down and to tell me how broke they are. If you're that broke, then you completely understand where I'm coming from. We should be what we're talking about, all right? Now, I'm going to talk about, I'm going to take you back to Chickasaw County, Mississippi, Okolona. I started a couple of years ago talking about that my association was born out of the ever-evolving story, a true story, called The Killing Fields of Rose Hill. And when I say evolving story, it's because this turns up more evidence and more proof of one of the biggest unreported serial murder in this nation. And it's not, listen close, and it's not indicative to just Rose Hill. That's the former name of Okolona. Now, when I say Rose Hill, I'm talking about any town, USA, because this story and these events are the side effects, are the results of a forced and intentional program. It's not a conspiracy. This is a fact. Now, going back to Rose Hill, July 14th, 2020, County Road 413. That's out in the, probably, I'm going to say it's on the Hulka mailing route. Hulka has its own history. You can research that and see how many people came out of that area that were former attorney generals for the state of Mississippi. So if you hadn't heard of it, you will after you read that. I mean, it's just really, it's just something in the water. Well, I'm going to tell you, it is something in the water, but I can promise you, it's not a miracle spring, and it's not the Gahan River or anything else. On July 7th, 2020, was the time of death. Jeremy Eric Williams was found in his home. He lived alone, and the time of death was rolled about a week. So we're giving that around the July the 7th. He laid in there a week, body decomposing. Now, I don't know who the first people on the scene were. I'm sure that I have that. And I've got some of the conversation leading up to the last time anyone had a conversation with Jeremy before he met his fate. Now understand that this death was ruled a suicide. I know that many of you saw that coming. We just did a piece, and there's more to that story, on Curtis McGowan from the Jackson area that was having some problems, and he retained Matthew Moore, the son of Mike Moore, the former prominent Attorney General of the state of Mississippi. He's the one that spearheaded the deal, brought all the big tobacco companies to their knees, got billions of dollars, and changed business the world over. Mississippi, by the way, got billions of that money. How much of it has been spent on Mississippi or Mississippians or on health care or any highways? None of it. None. It is put into a private trust. The legislator controls it, and with this pandemic and epidemics or catastrophes of biblical proportions, the governor can't get it. Legislators holding on to it. I don't know what you're doing with that money. Mississippians are not asking that question, demanding what you're doing with that money. I mean, I've got an opinion. It's billions of dollars. Divide that about with all the people living in Mississippi and write a check. You know, and you're just gonna sit on it. I'm sure their legislators are getting paid good, but that's what you need to do with it. But it's business as usual, and so goes the rest of the story. So Jeremy, 40 years old. Now his story is not unlike many the other stories that I hear. I don't want this to get lost in the shuffle, because it's looking mighty suspect for the power brokers in Chickasaw County, Mississippi. Just like it is for Lee County, Union County, Pontotoc County, Etowah, Prentiss, Alcorn, DeSoto, Greene, Calhoun, Lowndes. Don't want to leave anybody out. These are counties that I personally am well aware and have documented their crimes against humanity by law enforcement. It's that simple. Now, what we do have on this deal with Jeremy Eric Williams, and understand this, folks, he's got a family, a mother. His dad had passed away. No different than anyone else that has a son or daughter out there, and their death is untimely and questionable. We shouldn't be in this juxtaposed position in 2022 where we do not have ethical, transparent officials in positions of trust. But it seems like the dirty South is going to rise again, and deaths will continue to rise as well. It's deplorable because we have deplorables in the wrong place. To give you a backstory, the person that was last to see Jeremy alive was Billy Joe Stanton. Said he and his girlfriend went there around the time Jeremy died. Now, I don't know which girl was killed, but Billy Joe had a car accident, a girl was killed, and they sent him to Parchman, the state prison, which has one of the highest mortality rates in any prison in the world. Before anybody jumps on it, well, good, let them all die in there. Well, that works up to the point that it's your child, and your child is in there for a crime he didn't commit. So pump the hate brakes there, Fox and friends, and let's keep things on a neutral ground here and try to have a little bit of an open mind. Your minds are a lot like parachutes. They only function when they're open. All right? So that's the deal with that. This looks like an open and shut case. But now we had some other things that just do not mix. First of all, the coroner, then coroner, was Michael Fowler. Now, this is a guy that his house is more reminiscent of a doghouse. And maybe it's because it's full of dogs, big dogs, doing big dog stuff in the house. You get the picture. At first meet or glance of this guy, anyone with any sense of humanity will be able to sense you're not dealing with a normal person. There's something about him. You better believe it. This is the individual, when I was released from prison after a 10-year jaunt of a wrongful and set up conviction by these same people, the same structure. And it blindsides the victim because the victim is first targeted with smear tactics and gossip campaigns of rumor mill burns, and many are set up with fake crimes, convicted, they're abused through the system, and those that don't kill themselves die or rot in a prison ever revolving door of a penal system. And that, as far as the Home Office is concerned, is the talking points and the narrative about that individual, least they ever speak up and tell the truth. They hope they have them discredited to a point that they will not get any traction. That's why they focus so much on the trolls and fake victims online, is to try to marginalize and ban and muzzle true victims. They do this in a lot of nickel and dime ways. Every post you make, just understand, victim, when you make a post, it doesn't matter if it says, I love flowers. They'll immediately send and report it to Facebook that you are promoting hate speech. And AI, after AI gets its gut of that, you'll get banned for 2 or 3 days because you go against community standards, which are vague. It's very vague. No avenue to see exactly who and what was said, just the fact that that's the deal. This is how a victim is punitively damaged under the auspice of Facebook. And they hate the First Amendment of the Constitution. So does law enforcement. They hate it. They hate it. I don't care if they've got the whole world wallpapered in the Constitution. They hate it, and they absolutely despise it. Now, so it looks like an open and shut deal. Fowler does the, how it pronounced, I don't know how it looks like a knighthood. I don't what he might have had a class through the University of Phoenix or something like that, but I could tell you he has not got a degree in medical forensics or anything else. All right, I don't think you have to. Maybe a GED at best to be a coroner. So it's kind of like the Justice Court judge in the state of Mississippi. The bar of training and education is a GED. That's for a justice. There's few of those justice court judges are actually attorneys, and I'm sure they really love practicing, doing what they're doing alongside somebody with a GED. And attorneys sitting up and citing law and cases and stuff like that, and they have to give them the same courtesy as if they were speaking with somebody. They did go to law school, but it personifies a kangaroo court. Michael Fowler was also the coroner in the Fred and Childa Stevens so-called murder-suicide. I interviewed them a week and a half before this suicide murder. They've yet to take that statement. The story they're telling and the story that needs to be told is right the opposite. Well, how about Cody Lewis, the nephew of Judge Mom Jean's Judy? Now, she is in Okolona, Mississippi, a justice court judge in Okolona. And from Judge Mom Jean Judy's house, you can throw a small rock and hit the house of Jeremy Williams, Cody Lewis, Fred and Childa Stevens, and there's more. This is your ground zero and the hotbed that has propelled the killing fields of Rose Hill, which is nationwide. This is your snapshot picture. If an investigation by federal authorities, the ones that are not involved, just a matter of fact, you could get a brand new G-man fresh out of law school and put him on it. Or you could get somebody with a GED that went to Okolona High School part-time and put them on it. It's not going to be hard to see the irregularities in the deaths and the ones that Michael Fowler was on the scene with. I promise you, the math does not work. Is there a cover-up? Yes. Is there something to hide? Is there foul play in these deaths? Absolutely. Absolutely. We have the same bad actors that keep turning up every single time. And so I'm just hitting the high notes on this. But I think that it would be doing an injustice to everyone if I sit back, like many do, and take the complacent seat in this ride and just watch it and say, well, it's bad. That's part of the problem, ladies and gentlemen, is because not enough people have decided to, you know what, I'm going to do something I hadn't been doing for a long time, and I'm going to exercise my freedom and right of being an American citizen. Well, I'm doing that anyway. Well, going to Walmart and eating all you can eat at all you can eat buffet and hauling yourself there in an SUV is not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is standing up for what's right, pushing back on what is wrong, and demanding transparency and truth from our elected officials, the people that we work hard and put our money and pay them to give us a safe place to live, and they are there to enforce what we have as what we call law and order. Now, it may appear that they're doing that, but they're operating under a different system called lies and the order of lies. So we've got some flies in the ointment. The sheriff, Jim Myers. This was the sheriff here in these other deaths too. Jim Myers is the chief law enforcement officer of Chickasaw County. Jim Myers, I don't know how long he can cover for his multitude of criminal violations, personally. That's not a tall order, ladies and gentlemen. It should be. He fell right in the footsteps of his predecessor, Jimmy Simmons, which was one of the most well-known and revered methamphetamine sheriff cooks and distributors in the South. And he was his grave with that title. It was never hallmarked in any court proceeding. This was the unsaid behind closed doors of this blue wall of silence. Yes, the federal authorities and the state authorities were well aware of it. But due to his age and stature and connections in the community, it would be a critical breakdown of trust to open up that wound and talk about that. They would be afraid of this breakdown of and disarray and disorganization amongst law enforcement if that house of cards started coming down. So that's why it was. And Americans should have a problem with this, but they don't. I mean, some of them do. I don't know what the numbers are. I think there should be a problem with that. But yet we have these trolls, these morons with community-oriented policing that work off a different program. So what really happened to Jeremy Williams? Well, I'm going to tell you what really happened to Jeremy Williams. He was targeted by the community-oriented policing quagmire from hell, by the same people that have targeted me and others. Many have died or come up missing. Union County, Mississippi. That's the reason. That's the reason. Jessica Stacks on her Facebook page, her brother got that page, but the majority of the people on there, she doesn't know, never heard of them, and the one that's beating that drum beat is from Huntington Beach, California. Ooh, you can't make this stuff up, folks. And they're on deck to control the false narrative, to keep the lie intact. Law enforcement, the judges and attorneys, will go past the gates of hell to protect a lie. The truth, my friend, uncovers a multitude of sins. So maybe we don't want the truth, but maybe some of us absolutely do want the truth, especially when you happen to get blindsided by these people and all of a sudden they absolutely smother and drown the victim with unlawful citations, unlawful arrest, unlawful accusation, and they make the victim look like the criminal. Then they justify that victim's disappearance or death as, well, they was on dope. I've said it before, folks. They've got a small playbook. Their main objective, their main weapon is this: a lie, a rumor, and always doesn't matter what the victim's saying. Down here, rape kit got gang rape. Well, she's a dope whore. Oh, well, that excuses it. That's all they know. They don't know. They just not. They're like a trained monkey. And I'm not making any disparaging marks about the monkeys. And so I let the San Diego Zoo know that. But they do have some monkeys that have signed on the deal. I've seen them. So what's really going on? Well, so we got the guy that's in prison and a girl that's dead. And so it said, well, they were the last to see him. He's in prison. Don't worry about it. Well, that's not how it works. All right. And they accuse Jeremy of being a meth head. Okay. So if we can get off of someone's personal, whether what they did, what their habits were, what does that have to do with a murder or someone missing? And you might be thought, well, it's got everything to do with it. Really? Because we're talking about this, and as you talk about this, and you absolutely assassinate their character, then it's just kind of a low hum after that. Nobody's really paying attention. Unless you started off with, that's old Sonny Boy's daughter, and they was good people. And they're getting slapped on the back by a Mason. That means all hands on deck. We're gonna close the borders of this town and turn every place upside down and waterboard everybody, but we're gonna find out what the hell happened. That's the difference, all right? That's the difference. Now, so that was thrown out there. This is laughable, folks. When I talk about uh, being targeted by the Mississippi Department of Public Safety, the Commissioner Sean Tyndall. I've documented that. They have no problems with arbitrarily stopping someone, harassing them, towing their car, taking them to jail, bogus charge, and repeat the process if they don't like you. I can attest to that. That's right. True F, you already missed it. You don't have to go any further. Watch my videos. You can absolutely, if you don't think they're lying, hey, Stevie Wonder can see that. So, family members hire a, let me get this guy's name, because we've already talked about Jim Myers, and I'm going to tell you, folks, it's not. So they hire this a guy to investigate. He's an investigator, formerly, or may still be with the Mississippi Department of Public Safety. His name is Tim Davidson. Tim Davidson was asked to investigate Michael Fowler. All right. And he said, you'll like this, folks. He said, since Fowler ruled in an accidental overdose, he can't investigate it. So you mean to tell me that if a coroner is covering up murders and crimes, that he has some kind of coronistic immunity? I mean, I've heard of judicial immunity, but this takes it to a whole different level. So is that the silver bullet that we can't beat in the United States of America? All you've got to do is get a coroner to come in there and say whatever, hocus pocus, and nobody can investigate? Or do we have another bad actor participating in this Truman Show from hell? It's the bad actor, okay? It's the bad actor. How do we know this? Well, Fred and Childa Stevens, before their untimely death, had an issue with property being hijacked and stolen from them by Eddie Roberts, Okolona, Mississippi. This was made possible by attorney, city prosecutor, Gene Barton, the Bank of Okolona, and Judge Judy. And we've got another judge. His name is Gary Turner in Houston. Was involved in all of this with Stevens. Oh, and Jeremy as well. Oh, I've had a run-in as well with them. Plenty. When Judge Mom Jean's Judy was co-signing with a deputy sheriff of Chickasaw County had targeted me. Last name spelled R-A-P-P-E. Pronounced Jimmy Rape. And that, in fact, he was raping underage boys and girls in lieu of not going to jail for supposedly having dope. And how would he know if he had dope? Because they're providing dope to the people who sell dope, and it's real simple. With these drugs coming in, they get these pictures of a Charles Manson or some Mexican bringing it in. And folks, let me tell you, look no further than the badge. That's the deal. That's not a conspiracy either. I told you about the sheriff. So take it out of this. But I think that it's high time that we get a real investigation from a real agency. They're all tied, and not by just coincidence. This is not a coincidence. Within that area that I'm talking about, it's so if we can just do this in a small geographical area in North Mississippi, my God, what if we widen the horizon on that? What will we get? Folks, let me tell you, 4 million Americans a year report being criminally stalked. Now, that's a government figure. How much of that is conservative? How many of those people die? We'll have all the numbers, but I can tell you, this is big. Jeremy suffered from sleep deprivation. Now, understand this before you jump the gun, folks. Well, he's on methamphetamines. Of course he's going to have sleep deprivation. It's the perfect paradigm, isn't it? We put the narrative out there. They're on this. Of course, they're having sleep deprivation. Well, I want to take your attention to this because these bad actors are always in their Orwellian state, like the truth police. And when you ask them something, the answer, the truth versus the lie, you're always going to get the lie. In other words, we're all meeting at nighttime, means they're meeting at daytime. When they say I'm not lying, means they are lying. Star Wars coined the phrase forced psychosis. That was a Jedi mind trick. I know the cops, the network of community perverts with badges love to hear this. We don't think it's funny. What they're talking about is forced psychosocial stress and psychosis. And this is a study that's done, a review of the neurological mechanisms and the evidence for geno-stress interaction. Now, and you can get that at the Oxford University Press. That verbatim is forced psychosis. It is a real thing. It's just their play on words that they use. How do they operate and use forced psychosis on a victim? Well, it's easy. First, you've got to create the groundwork. You put people in their life. First thing you got to do is create a stressful situation. And that stressful situation affects the frontal cortex of the brain. This is where depression, happiness, fear, decision making, all that is there. Well, when they stress that, then this person will start exhibiting what is now referred to as either bipolar, schizophrenia, etc. And of course, we couldn't have this without the mental health community as a whole casting its lot with community-oriented, holistic form of policing where everybody does their part. We'd rather see them in treatment as opposed to in prison. Well, what if they're not sick, and what if they haven't broke the law, but yet they're running through this deal? Do you see anything wrong with that? You'll never get that conversation there. They're building mental health facilities all over the place. And again, their target, the victim, once they start reporting things that are happening, well, it sounds like you're crazy. You need help. You need to get on medication. Well, this, my friend, forced psychosis, forces them into this. Normally, one stressful situation puts a person in this, but that will play itself out and they'll come back to an even kill in about 30 days. It's not permanent. But wait a minute. Being targeted by community-oriented policing and this diabolical psyop that they use of targeting individuals never ends. So it's a perpetual gonorrhea gift of torture. And only the victim is aware of all the things that they're doing to the victim. It's a death by 1,000 paper cuts. It's very orchestrated. It's very deliberate. Not only is it deplorable and despicable, but it's very criminal. So we look at the sleep deprivation. So let's not dismiss the fact that we have got other players in the situation that may change, that had Jeremy down for the count. Well, I'll tell you what had Jeremy down for the count. Jeremy was down for the count because of his friendship with Peter Francis Wazinski, age 72, medical doctor, is now practicing in Oak Grove, Louisiana. And was he prescription happy and those things like that? Well, I'd say that's an understatement. That's an understatement. I would say that he was rather worried because now And he is treating Jeremy as his doctor there in Okolona. In one exchange, the doctor is letting him know over text, we're not checking for marijuana. In our urine test to be completely clean, you'd have to go a month, test to be negative. But the companies do spot check to catch people who are using. I don't think he was looking for a job. I don't know where that came from. Some family members started seeing the handwriting on the wall about this doctor and his relationship with Jeremy. And folks, let me tell you, for full disclosure, Okolona and some of these rural neighborhoods love to get on this kick. Well, two men shouldn't be living together. Now, this is the same organization that has a high percentage of the lesbian and gay community that feel like they need to be validated and get on some militant, secret, deprive other citizens of their citizenship and their dignity and their constitutional rights and be criminals and get a pass on what we do. They get validated. Nothing about every single thing about a participant in community-oriented policing is contradictory, is hypocritical. But those that are officers of the court and attorneys and judges and law enforcement, we expect more from them, don't we? Well, put that expectation out. They were concerned. Said he's texting Jeremy and says, this could cause me serious trouble. I will call you later about this. I have not over-medicated you, but this lady that he got wind of this lady was could trigger an investigation of me that could cause me a lot of trouble. Now, I'm sorry that I ever had contact with whoever this woman was. No, and he said, no, she's talking about going to see an attorney. Read it again. Please don't contact her any way until I talk with you. And this goes on and on and on. He said, please, please, please. This could be very dangerous for me. This is the doctor. Don't do anything until I talk with you. This was right up before Jeremy was found dead from suicide. Now, he's no longer in Okolona. I love it in Mississippi. They have a way is when these perpetrators out here shit in their nest, they put them in hiding, like Tanner Vaughn, and we go on and on and on. They disappear. They go somewhere else, and nobody talks about it. So what is the common thread with Dr. Peter Wazinski? I've asked the people of Oklahoma, they don't recall him. I guess they hit him with that light thing at Men in Black and it zaps people's men. I don't know. Maybe some of you get back with me on that. Through just a basic ad hoc public records search and so forth, and I try to bring myself up to breast a little bit before I start talking about something. And one of the things that surprised me at looking into Dr. Wazinski, we know he's not from here, but we can't pronounce it, and it's hard to spell. Even looking at it, it's difficult at best. But the common thread is showing him as a close associate with city prosecutor and attorney, you got it, Gene Barton. My. Jeremy was assaulted by, I'm going to get that guy's name. We can't let this go. Vic Holiday. Vic Holiday had screwed him out of a motorcycle that he bought. And because Jeremy didn't do due diligence in trusting too many people, they didn't have the paperwork right, and that allowed the exploiters to exploit. And that's what they do. How many times have I been robbed and sold, made the reports, provided the evidence? Union County has done nothing. They sanction crimes against Americans. Fact. And this is one of them. So, Jeremy's complaining on social media. Who knows what he's saying? But he's exercising his First Amendment right, as I have. I go to jail for that. For exercising, for making unflattering statements about an individual. Unflattering it may be, but it is my constitutional right. and you can keep arresting me. I'm going to keep exercising it. I'm not going to give it up because you have abused me through the law. That's abuse under the color of law. That's what we want to see through. As Union County deputies stand here and shake their head and just the eyes roll back in their head like the exorcist. We're all knowing, all powerful. There's nothing you can do about our corruption. Well, we'll see about that. So this Vic Holiday, the holidays from Hulka, with his son in tow, goes to Jeremy Williams' property to confront him about the things he'd been saying about the motorcycle he stole from him. And he crosses over into Jeremy's property. And he jumps on him and broke his jaw, knocked his glasses off his head. This is all the makings, if you can get a picture of this, of someone that was getting annihilated by someone much bigger than him. A hate crime, because this guy was perceived as, he had a male roommate. And so I'm in Okolona, Mississippi, and we can beat up on these kind and do whatever and rob them, everything, and they're not going to do anything for them. Well, that is a hate crime. When they went to court, the first court appearance, the prosecutor and the person there, now Jeremy, they charged this Holiday guy with assault, but they charged Jeremy as well. They were both found guilty. Yeah. Folks, I don't know how that happens. How you can be attacked and assaulted. This is a federal felony hate crime on your own property, but you got these kangaroo court judges, Turner and Posey, and this is the way they get down, folks. I've been there, I've seen it. Judge Judy Posey was co-signing on everything Jimmy the Rape was doing up until he was no longer Jimmy the Rape, Chickasaw County's finest. Now he's in the lawn care business. He did go to therapy for about a month over his raping and child molestation. All right, that's what he got out of that deal. So Gene Barton, again, is in this picture, and the next court hearing, they both get found guilty. Folks, I don't know where they do that at. There's not something I'm missing there. This is the way it works. The victim is always going to be the criminal. I don't care. He was asleep, and if he'd got attacked in his sleep and lived out of it, it seems like the last time he didn't. And we're going to get to that in just a second. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm just giving you some of the players in this deal are the same players in all the deals, including my deal. I've had interaction with these same clowns, okay? Not the one that attacked him. I would venture to say that I'd like to think it would have turned out a little different. We'd probably both been charged, or at least one of us been charged, and I'd have got a more serious crime. But I'll promise you, victims, one thing another common thread, there's always, before the demise of this victim, you'll hear stories about things that they're doing to try to relieve and to make sure that the victim does not have any weapons. Why are they so concerned? Well, they're doing crazy things. Well, what they don't tell you, a couple of days ago, I posted the video footage of a vehicle in the middle of the night, early in the morning, cruising around here, people coming out of the woods. It's happened how many times in Union County, documented. Well, I got the tag number one and posted, come to find out it was a CBA, community-based agent, Mississippi National Guardman. I got arrested for cyber stalking for calling me everything but a child of God. And he was in fear of his life. I don't know if you're on a man's property stalking, peeping in the windows, and he finds out who you are, and you go to the police, I'm in fear of my life. I mean, what other feeling are they supposed to have when they're criminal peeping toms? I don't know. I keep documenting this. Union County, Mississippi thinks that's okay. But when they stop in front of my house and fire shots or shout profanities, I get my car and to get behind them where I can document the car that's flying that don't want to be documented. They make no hesitation to come to my house and say, now you keep this up, we're going to get you for cyber stalking again. And little they know, not just me, but there's several that are doing everything they can to make sure that when you get got, and you will, it won't be for some bogus charge. It's going to stick. and it won't be a month of counseling like Jimmy Rape got. You can go down there, and finally, the state and federal prisons will have people in there that really, really do need to be there. Now, so we've got that in the mix, and now, so he gets assaulted. After he gets beat to a pulp, Vic Holiday had his son go in his pocket and get his gun. Got his gun, stole it, and took it. He later recovered that gun. Only to lose it again. And not only that, Michael Fowler is the only person that can answer that question. Where's the gun? Where's the $2,000 cash? Where's the diamond ring? Where is his property that was there? They found Jeremy Williams. He had been talking with his mother, and he made the comment that, oh my God, I'm covered in fleas. They're all over the porch. Now, these plagues that many victims complain of are in fact part of the psychological operation. You mean plague bug? Yes. You hear them complaining of infestation of bed bugs and so forth. This is not new. Any kind of bug that harvests and lives off of human blood. Now, so it's not hard for them to immediately get someone's place infested with this. At the night of Jeremy's death, he had been up. His mother was up, and he was texting her, and they were communicating. And he mentioned that. And the things that he was talking about, none of which were indicative of someone that would take their own life. And you can see also from personal messages of his repulse at people that use methamphetamine, especially intravenously. Now, based on personal conversations that he's having versus what the talking points are from the Home Office and law enforcement are two different things. So the conversations he's having with friends and family is one thing, and law enforcement is telling a whole different story. So who's he being real with? Law enforcement? I don't know. And why and for what reason should we trust what law enforcement say when they are certified liars? Especially the ones I'm talking about here. So his doctor friend is getting flack. They're shacked up. But now he wasn't around during this deal. I don't know if he was out of, who knows? That's a whole other story. But believe me, he was somewhere else, and now they've got him moved out of the mix into Louisiana. And they've got the guy that saw him last alive. He's in prison. Girl's dead. Jeremy's buried. So there's no investigation. There's no foul play. Well, of course, we've got the coroner, Gene Barton, and the judge, and the sheriff. I think we need to start there, but we don't stop there. Another common thread through victims of these crimes that end up dead, this common thread is over a property dispute or someone in their desire to gain more property. The problems I have where I am are people that own a property adjacent to the property that I rent. In Chickasaw County, Mississippi, we have someone working for the tax assessor's office, and his name is, I've got it, Ron Conley, and he had adjacent property, and his property is not that far from Children and Fred Stevens. A property dispute. These all property disputes. Okay, these people somehow, especially if someone is deemed an undesirable, and that is a low bar. God forbid someone ever speak the truth or point out that that's not a real church. That's bogus. That you're flirting with disaster. They did not want Jeremy there. Now, this is America. This was his land, his house. But for some reason, he was targeted. People creeping around his house and all the little tactics that they use to cause sleep deprivation And with that sleep deprivation and the stress of getting assaulted and beat and all this stuff, Jeremy had a car accident. I have a photograph where they took a picture in Jacked magazine, and this is a magazine, and there's so many like that absolutely exist for one reason, and that's off of the misery of those that have the unfortunate instance where they were arrested and their mugshot put on that. I don't know what good that serves, and I don't know who would get their rocks off of watching someone in probably one of their deepest, darkest moments of their life. How would that make you feel? And no, that shouldn't serve anybody right. That's not how it works. This is not America, that we just shame people for something because we have a system that's called innocent until proven guilty. When you put those mug shots out there, making them look in the worst light you could put a human being in, you by proxy have already made a prejudicial decision about that individual. So Jack magazine has a picture of him in there. And I read comments that he made. He was handcuffed and beat for nearly 30 minutes by 4 Pontotoc County Sheriff deputies. Do I believe that? Oh, you damn Skippy, I believe it. We could tell stories till the cows come home about law enforcement killing and beating people to death. Or does it only get told when it happens to George Floyd? Because we have the Home Office that loves to get in and drive false narratives. And they empower the Black Lives Matter movement. There's nothing wrong as a whole of any race standing up for their race. I take the ground of all lives matter. And when you start talking about one race as opposed to another, then by default, that pits one race against the other. We're not making progress. But it's this division and confusion that all dictators use to rise to power. All dictatorial leaderships in the history of the world have all risen to power over divide and conquer. So this is your divide and conquer. It's not new and it's still in play. Identify it. And we're dealing with it. They did an autopsy, a toxicology report. Now, the body decomposed for a week. Now, what's the toxicology report going to tell us? Well, it's not going to tell us when Jeremy Williams was found, he was in a room in his house that he never had any reason to be in. That just, I've got extra rooms. I don't hang out in them. The room was closed, and a child's chair was blocking the door. He didn't have any children. Pete Lewinsky had a child, or grandchild. And the chair was hers that she had apparently visited or what have you. The front door was left unlocked, which again was not indicative to Jeremy's modus operandi. He would have locked his door. He wouldn't have gone in that room and then pushed a chair up in front of the door. This was set up to make it look like he was suffering from some type of paranoid, delusional psychosis. But if you take a person that's been stressed, may or may not have been over-medicated by a doctor, and you have a whole clan of bad actors doing everything under the sun, screwing with you, and you report it, well, he's on dope. No, there really are people, and I've documented it. So people quit telling me that. It's very real. It's there. Law enforcement, when they quit gaslighting you, and by the way, Stalin, Lenin, Marx, Hitler, all used gaslighting as a technique. Still, and if you don't know what that means, research it. I can't be a Wikipedia today. So, they only did a toxicology report and said that he overdosed on methamphetamine. Now, I'm not a doctor, folks. I had no desire to be a doctor. Or any of those other things. This, right out of Michael Fowler's playbook. I don't know how you overdose on it. I mean, I've heard people overdosing on heroin, cocaine, alcohol, chocolate cake. But he overdosed on methamphetamine. And he possibly intravenously. Now, I don't doubt that he was given something intravenously. I know for a fact that we can't count high of people that have died from getting a hot shot, and that is a cocktail with methamphetamine and other drugs mixed in it, given to someone that may or may not use that drug to make the death seem as if they overdosed. That's a perfect crime, isn't it? Well, this is his old hat. Why didn't they do a complete autopsy? With all things considered, the doctor was nervous. He was talking about the wrong things. And now they'd already sent a hit in, getting the assault. The police officers, the sheriff's department nearly beat him to death in adjacent county. This is the makings of a perfect storm. They need to go ahead and close the deal. And this is how they close the deal. And this is it's closed like that every time. There's a problem, folks. It's closed like that every time. They didn't do a full autopsy. Michael Fowler said that was, toxicology, whatever, but it wouldn't, if his neck was broke, if he was hit over the head or anything else, well, a toxicology report does not show that. It doesn't reflect foul play. It only would reflect what was already put in his system. Just a little bit of G-Man work would have established whether or not it was possible for him to inject himself and so forth. Now, their only probable cause to go on that deal was supposedly they found some tinfoil in the living room with methamphetamine residue on it. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, boys. There's a big difference between someone that uses methamphetamine intravenously and one that smokes it off of tinfoil. That is two different animals. Now, the two different animals, that's facts. They know it. But for those, the movers and shakers, and the do-gooders, and these fake churches, and in these prominent positions, mumbo jumbo, dopey smokesy, they all they had to hear was the dope part. About it being factual or being a statistical improbability, they don't care about that. We got our story, let's run with it. Well, we're talking about murder, high crimes and misdemeanors, corruption at the highest level, and running with it, that we're going to do. We're going to keep reporting and putting it on blast. When I envision, and I'm going to post for my Patreons, that's where it's going. And if you're a troll, I'm just telling you, jump on in there if you want to. But if you become a Patreon, I'll make sure you get some first-hand things that we all have to work for to get. And if it's worthwhile to support what we're doing, then you become a Patreon. But I'm going to put some information in there. But when you picture someone that is living the life they want to live and just want to be left alone, not bothering anybody, but they're getting systematically tormented, harassed, assaulted, robbed, dismissed, misdiagnosed, over-medicated, abused through our judicial system and by our law enforcement, then you get the picture that we should not be drawing for anyone in America. And this is not an isolated case. I would venture to say we could draw that picture daily. So there'll be more to come on Jeremy Williams. Again, Okolona, Mississippi, Chickasaw County. I would prefer to be talking about other things, but folks, I couldn't think of anything more. Because if I do not speak up about these horrific things, these families will live with feeling that they have no voice, they've been dismissed, they've marginalized the death or disappearance of a loved one. And I think somebody needs to stand up and say enough is enough. Let's get the rest of the story. And let's start holding these people accountable. How do you do it? You do it. You contact them. You do it. You can support what we're doing and keep your name out of it. But standing by silently is not an option. Are people being proactive in the Jeremy Williams case? Yes. So I'm not at liberty to go into a whole lot of detail. The fat lady has not had her say in this opera, nor has the fat lady, and this is all metaphorical, with that of Jessica Stacks. When these, it seems like there's no answer or nobody wants to hear the truth, they will spend all resources to get in the ear of anyone that dare listen to someone that is proclaiming the truth. But I expect that level-minded and rational individuals will be able to look at what we're talking about and measure that, not vetting it or bouncing it off someone that may give them a convoluted answer, but let your conscience be your guide. Matter of fact, ask God. Not the preacher, not the lawyer, not the judge, not the boy down at the Masonic temple. He don't know God, and that's the last person you need to ask. Right here, in your heart, ask God. And I think that's going to be your best guide. Because those that are standing up and say, hey, I've been wrong, need a voice, and that's what we're doing. And we need some justice here and across this country. We need change, and that's what we're working. With the Targeted Individual Protection Act, we're going to get the signatures and get that in the hands of Cindy Hyde-Smith and 29 other U.S. members of the House of Representatives. And we're advocating for this. And so today, Jeremy Eric Williams, he was 45, I believe, 45 years old. And no parent should outlive her child. Even it's your child. And no matter what everybody else says, what they describe them as or how they categorize them, it's your child. You love your child just like they love their children. He deserves justice, not a title, or not to be dismissed, or a story, a lie, a cover-up. People in Chickasaw County need to do some soul searching. And those tyrants that continue to allow this to take place. I wonder if Connolly, he's trying to get his hands on the land. I'm quite sure. This is always the deal. Somebody has something to gain. A lot of people had motives. The doctor, there was a lot of motives there. So they managed to get rid of some people. Got somebody murdered, somebody in prison, another one dead. One of them moved off, and we moved on with a lie. Folks, let me hear from you. Until next time, I'm Richard Moore. God bless you.